Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's pop-up small group. My name's Lucy Rycroft. I'm the current ministry lead here at Parenting for Faith, and it's great to welcome you here tonight, whether this is your first time at a pop-up small group from Parenting for Faith or whether you've been many times before. It's great to have you with us. So you are very, very welcome here. The next half hour, 40 minutes or so, I know is going to be super helpful content to us as we look at different ways to engage our kids in mission. And to do that, we've got the lovely, wonderful Rachel Turner joining us, which is brilliant. And I know she's got a lot of very, very wise and helpful things to say to us. So we're looking forward to her. Before I introduce her, I just thought I would share a brief vision for what these pop-up small groups are about, because it may be your first time. You may not be quite kind of aware what the purpose is of these groups. They're really all about building community and offering a safe space to discuss any kind of discipleship, family discipleship issues. So whether you're watching on your own and your community is in the chats, then please do engage, please ask questions, please comment. You're very, very welcome to do that. We'd love to get a bit of a discussion going, or whether you're watching in a group, either online or in person, and you can continue the discussion there. That's what these groups are all about. It's not the end of a conversation, it's the start of a conversation. If you haven't found them already, we actually have a handout on our website with discussion questions that relate to tonight's topic. So I think at some point Kate is going to put the link in the chat if she hasn't already. And if you haven't found that, then do just hop onto that page, because those discussion questions might be helpful for you if you are in a group tonight. The Parenting for Faith approach is very much about parenting in the everyday, about nurturing our children's faith in the ups and downs of everyday life, not just in the big spiritual moments, but in everything we go through. We really strongly believe that you are the expert in your child and your unique family situation. And this is really about finding your next step as a family. So it's not about having all the answers. It's not about doing what the person sitting next to you is doing or doing what the person in the comments is doing with their family. It's about taking the principles that Rachel's going to outline for us over the next few minutes and finding your next step as a family, which is relevant to the age and stage of your children and the personality type, and only you know what's going to work best for your family. So we really hope that tonight will be the start of a conversation, the start of your thinking on this really important topic of mission. So I'm really delighted to introduce Rachel Turner. Rachel, hello.
Hello.
It's great to have you back. In case you don't know, Rachel is the founder of Parenting for Faith. She is an author, a speaker internationally, much in demand, all over the world. I can say that because she actually is. She's always making us jealous with fun trips around the world. Fun speaking trips around the world, which sounds super fun too. So we're really, really pleased that we have just grabbed her for a little bit of time tonight to share about mission. Rachel, I was just wondering if you could kick us off with like a definition. Like, what are we talking about? What is mission?
Okay, so I spent ages like writing down trying to figure out the difference. Okay, so this is my take. You may disagree. Totally all right. So I think we get confused between evangelism and mission, and then it just becomes like outreach, and we just go for that word. So for the purposes of this brief half hour, I'm going to talk about evangelism as in like that's the one-to-one stuff of sharing your faith, and mission in my head, which could be wrong, is like this collective thing that we do together that is deliberately going out to serve other people, to talk about who Jesus is. It's a sort of, I don't want to say activity, but it's a choice that we collectively choose to do. But that could be a terrible definition. But in my head, that's what I'm talking about. Do you have a different definition, Lucy?
I think that's a brilliant definition, and I love that. And
I don't know.
I was listening whilst also simultaneously trying to get you to be big and me to be
Oh,
small, and I can't
fine.
quite do it. But we'll keep doing that. But no, from what I heard, that was a great definition.
Fine.
Thank you. So I think my thing about mission is often when we start thinking about mission, we think of an activity, don't we? We like think of, taking our family on an overseas mission, perhaps, or for others of us, it'll be like doing a litter pick in the local park or something like that, which is an activity. But there's another step that comes first, isn't there?
Yeah. So for me, I kind of want to talk about both mission and evangelism because I think they're so Venn diagrammy that I think is just really helpful to do because whether you're doing it by yourself or whether you're doing it together, it's something there. And I think for me, one of the important first steps is that we actually expose them to the fruit of what we're trying to do. Because when you think it's an activity, we're like, we're going to go do this because Jesus told us to do it, or we're going to go do this because it got put on by the church and we're all going to attend, or we're all going to go do mission because it's something that we read in the Bible. And that doesn't really help our kids orient um, or anchor into what it is. It just tells them what we're going to do and the fact that we should do it. And we put this big should on them, and then they're stuck with this sort of burden of a should. And I think it's really important that we help them understand the why that is underpinning all of this stuff. And so the why really is that life with God, life with Jesus is a transformed life, and God has so much on offer for us. And that's why we're telling people about it, because actually God has so much that he wants to give people, and we want them to know God. And so what's really important is that they actually hear stories and are surrounded by stories of lives transformed. Not just, I like God, so I follow him, but the actual stories of before and after and what God did and how I'm different today. And so, one family that I knew was having their small group was doing their testimonies. It was just every night. It was a testimony night, and they were just going around and they asked the group, I'd love to bring my kids to hear your stories. And some of the people were like, our stories are very graphic, some of them. And the parent was like, I'd love to, it's important that they hear the stories of before and life and sex and drugs and how it's different now and what Jesus brought. And so if we're not surrounding them with those stories of the beautifulness of a life transformed, then we're just going out to pick up litter, and it robs it of the important bits. We also have to tell them stories of how people have been involved in those transforming lives. Like we often just be like, I met God and it's great, but actually, these amazing stories are in there of how significant just ordinary people can be in each other's lives. I remember listening to a story of a teenager who went to a youth group and met Jesus and then came home and slowly over like 2 years shared Jesus with her parents, and her parents came to faith, and then the whole family came to faith, and then the grandparents came to faith. And I was like, wow, how cool and powerful to know that a 16-year-old who owns their own faith can share it with their family. Or hearing stories of, I love hearing stories of, I was talking to my friend and I thought they were crazy because they love Jesus, but the more they talked, the more I thought maybe there's something in this God thing. And if our kids aren't hearing those stories, then it just feels like a performance rather than, I want to be involved in the life of my friends, my parents. And so surround them with stories of lives change, surround them with stories of the significance of ordinary people in lives. And for missions, surround them with stories of local people changing local areas, all around the world. Don't just tell them of something that a missionary from here went there to do. I'd much rather hear a story of a local community who pioneered something to meet a local need and how Jesus was shining through. So the stories of what we expose our kids to and watch on Instagram and bring to evenings is so important for framing why mission and evangelism is even important in the first place.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you, Rachel. I've seen in my own family, I think the power of sort of sharing testimonies and exposing them to those stories of just people in our church who are coming to faith. There was a lady the other day who stood up and gave her testimony, and I won't share it here, but essentially she wasn't even looking for Jesus and she
Yeah,
found him, and it was really through the ministries that go on in the week at our church. And so it's great for them to see when every week they're seeing those ministries advertised, they can now see, okay, there's a context to that. It's not just about being kind and welcoming to people. We actually want to share
yeah.
the love of Jesus with people as well. Yeah, thank you. That really makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to then, so that's the first step. When it comes to mission, how can we give our kids a broader understanding of that whole?
I mean, I think one of the things is that we have very narrow understandings of what mission is, which is why I kind of want to tie evangelism into it, because often they just get really separated off. And I think they're really tied together. And it comes with so many assumptions. We have so much baggage about the historical context of it and stuff. And so I tend to start off with the idea of evangelism because that's often their first mission field is with their friends, that their first place of encountering people who don't know Jesus and need them to be loved and served and share who God is their friendship groups and if they go to school, the school context. And I find that what's really helpful for kids to know is that it's not about you. And well, I'll say my point. It's not about you having to defend and explain all of Christianity to everybody. And often in schools, that is the position that Christian kids get put in, either accidentally or just because sometimes in RE teachers are like, you're a Christian. Why don't you share what Christians believe? And kids can then feel the pressure of, I now represent all of Christianity and I have to be able to explain everything. And so their idea of mission or evangelism is I need to explain stuff and accurately tell my 4 points of the gospel. And I'm constantly explaining to kids and teens that that's not the thing that we're called to do. In First Peter, Peter was telling his friends, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope. Let me actually read the quotes. First Peter, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. And we often go to the be prepared with the answer. And so we're like, make sure they have all the right answers. But I tell kids it's about giving a reason for the hope that you have. And so just talk about your hope that you have. It's okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. For me, I know God is real because I talk to him every night and I can just feel his peace. Like to me, that's totally real. And I know that. Or, yeah, it makes sense. Or when this happened, it happened. Or this is how God helps me when it comes. And that sense of you own your own story and you tell your story and giving them power to that story is really, really important. And so for me, I'd suggest that we end up practicing with our kids talking about their stories, which is where the home stuff comes in. How do you know God is real? What do you experience with God? How do you know that God's walking alongside of you? And get them used to just as a family talking about God, which then will make it natural. When I was a teenager, I really remember I had a cyst on my ovary and I was going in to get an ultrasound, and all of my theater friends were really scared because they had other things going on, HIV tests and things. And they were looking at me for like, you're a Christian. How are you going to handle this? What if it's bad? And they were saying, what if it's cancer? And I was like, you know what? I'm really okay with it because like if I die, I'm going to spend eternity with Jesus. And if I'm not going to die, then I'm going to spend eternity with Jesus. So I'm really okay. Like I'm feeling really peaceful about it. Like it's okay. And when I get really scared, I just like take 3 breaths and I just ask God to hold me. And I like can physically feel God with me. So I'm not worried about being in the test. I'm not worried about the worst. I'm okay. And I just remember watching all my friends be like, I don't have that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. That's how it helps me. And we had all of these amazing faith conversations, not because I was like the Bible says, but because I was saying this is who God is in my life. And so I want them to feel those stories, to be able to answer questions from their experience and to feel confident to say, I don't know. If they're anchored in that, then whether they're litter picking or whether they're talking to their friends or whether they're going on an international trip, it's all the same of being prepared to serve and love others and share your story of who Jesus is.
Yeah, thanks. That's really helpful. So it flows from that place of connection with God, like everything does. And yeah, I love how you kind of unpack that verse in is it 2 Peter? 1 Peter?
Yes, I
I
think it's
forget.
1 Peter.
One of the Peters, 1 Peter. Yes, because it's a lot less scary, I think, for our kids and our teens to just share their faith and their experience of faith and who God is, rather than to say, okay, we need to you know, get you all like loaded up with all these apologetics answers, because that actually is really quite scary and quite daunting, and it's not everyone's gifting. So that's helpful. And then kind of thinking more practically, have you got any ideas for sort of how we get our kids involved in mission? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's something about, I guess, one, feeling free to invite them into, okay, I'm gonna say this. Feel free to invite them into traditionally adult spaces. I think that's really, really important because They are equal members of the body of Christ, like everybody else. And sometimes, as parents, we wait for the family moment. And I think it's really important to invite them along when you're going and serving people. Invite them to come, whether you're dropping off food for a neighbor, or whether you're, going and serving and litter picking and things. Allow them to come alongside you in what you do. And sometimes it's about what families do, but just sort of give them access to all of the areas you have access to doing mission. One thing I'd also say is that we need to create a heart of compassion for people. Often we go to the activity and yeah, give them to the activity, but there's something about teaching them to see people like Jesus sees them that is really, really helpful as they go on mission. That we're not just here to litter pick and manipulate people to do what we want to do. We're here because we want to serve these people, to help them know how loved and valuable they are, because life is hard for everybody. And we want to make people feel like they're not alone. That heart of compassion is a really important thing. And so whether you're watching TV and you see people laughing at someone and you pause and be like, I'm not sure my heart feels okay with that, because we're called to have a heart for everyone. Just that sense of cultivating compassionate hearts is a really important part of mission, because that's often what drives. Whenever Jesus moved, it often said he moved in compassion. His heart was filled with compassion and he did something. And so do that. But I would also suggest that we create a culture of following our compassionate instincts. If that makes sense. As you go through life, your kids will, if you're creating hearts of compassion, naturally have little mission ideas of serving, of loving people. And often we skip past that because we're busy and we're tired and we don't have time right now. And you'll often notice that we skip over the moments where they're like, there's a homeless person outside, can we buy them a drink? And we go, well, we don't have time, or we've already checked out, or I'm sure somebody else has done it, or they already had a sandwich. And noticing that the goal is to help them have compassion and move on their instincts. I knew a kid who came home from New Wine. He was so passionate and he got really into toilet twinning. And he was like, I want to toilet twin everybody in the neighborhood. And the parent was like, that is definitely not what I wanted to do for my summer. But the kid was so excited. And the parent's like, okay, well, I mean, you take the lead, man. I'm not going to take this off of you. So he like made t-shirts and he sold them like on street corners. And he did this whole thing. And the parent was like, I have no time or emotional energy to put into this, but I'm going to create space for my kid to do it and to pioneer. And I think he got like 5 toilets trained, and he was so excited because there was compassion, there was an instinct, and there was a parent who just made space for it. You don't have to jump on board, you don't have to do it every time, but there's something about helping them respond to that. There's another family I heard that I really loved, where there was a kid who just noticed that when the friend was over their house, this kid flourished and knew that this kid had a hard home life. And so the kid was like, can we just have my friend over more often? Not because I want to see them, but because I think he benefits from being part of a loving family here, and that we see him and affirm him and stuff. And the parent was like, yeah, that wasn't my plan, but that's absolutely something we can do as a family, is have a mission for this one individual. And that really bolsters up. And I guess the last thing I would say is that it's about passion rather than gifting. So often when we look at mission, we're like, well, you're good at music. Why don't you, do a band? Or, you're really good at, you're really strong. Why don't you do a football ministry thing? And we sort of suggest things that go along with what they're good at. And I would suggest that it's really helpful to find out what they're passionate about, because that might not be what they're good at, but it's about what is stirring inside of them. And so you can ask them questions like, if you had 50,000 pounds to spend, not on yourself, what would you spend it on? Or what needs fixing in your school that you would love to see fixed and it hasn't been fixed yet? Or yeah, anything. It just, what is stirring in them? What are they passionate about? And then sort of come around that, because there'll be some times where you as a family share that, and sometimes them as an individual share it. But there are so many people who then can share around that. Just surf that wave of passion over gifting, and they'll go in so many different directions you never thought they would go in with mission, because it's actually, you can learn skills. You can learn skills, but figuring out what you and God are passionate about together is a real gift for mission.
Rachel, thank you so much. That's just gold, so much in there to mull over. If you're watching this, please do feel free to type your questions into the chat because we'd love to quiz Rachel's mind even more. So if you've got any questions about mission with our kids and our teens, then please pop them in the chat and we'll get to them. Just while you're taking your time to think and think of and write your questions, I just wanted to share a few things that we have going on in June Parenting for Faith that you might be interested in. One is if you are a parent or carer of tweens or teens. One is if you're a parent who is also a church leader, and one is if you are new to Parenting for Faith and you'd like to find out a bit more about how this might be able to change your ministry or your family for the better. Um, the first opportunity, if you are a parent of tweens or teens, we have a brand new course just for you. It's called Parenting Teens for a Life of Faith. It is written and presented by Rachel. It's absolutely brilliant. I've watched it at least 3 times, and I have kids in that age bracket, and I found it super helpful personally. It really unpacks the teenage faith journey and how we can equip and support that as parents and carers. It's a truly brilliant course. And we launched it in April. Sorry, same letter. But we are running a Zoom hosted course in June. It starts on June the 4th, and you are very, very welcome to sign up as a church if you want to, leave all the hard work of streaming and hosting and all that kind of thing to us. We are doing that for you across 6 Tuesday evenings starting on June the 4th. So Kate will pop the link in the chat, but do check that out if that would be helpful to you. Otherwise, you're very welcome to go and watch the course and do it with a group whenever's convenient to you. The second event is if you are a parent and a church leader, we have our annual Parenting as a Church Leader training day coming up on Tuesday, June the 11th. It's 9:30 to 2:30. It's on Zoom, so it fits between the school run and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And again, my husband's a church leader, so I have really benefited from this personally as well. It's a really great course if you want to think about how do we nurture our children's faith when we're in this like goldfish bowl of ministry life, and our kids are known by everyone, and like how can we empower them to go on their own faith journey that doesn't necessarily look like ours, but is really powerful in its own right. So that's coming up on June the 11th. So again, there'll be a link in the chat. And finally, we've got a brand new event coming up for those who are interested in parenting for faith, but maybe haven't got around to running a course yet. Maybe your church leader isn't quite on board, or you can't get parents to be interested and turn up. We're running an event just for you, and it's called Jumpstart. And it's on Thursday, the 13th of June. There's a morning session or an evening one, so you pick the one that suits your schedule best. And it's really going to be about giving you a kind of a lot more information about all the courses that we run, answering your questions, showing you creative ways that the courses can be run, and really helping you to kind of figure out what are my next steps for my church community. Okay, so they won't commit to like every night for 8 weeks, but maybe they will come and do a Saturday. Maybe we can provide childcare, or maybe we can do it with lunch after a church service or stuff like that. We've got loads and loads of creative ideas for you, and we would love to problem solve with you. So again, the link will be in the chat. Do sign up for Jumpstart if you feel that that could be helpful to you in getting your Parenting for Faith ministry off the ground. I don't think that there are any questions unless I've missed them.
I have a
Oh, we have got a
clarification.
beautiful. Oh yeah, go for it.
My clarification is, as I'm thinking about what I was saying, I think we sometimes get confused about gifting. And I just wanted to say there are spiritual gifts that we want to see our kids fly in. I meant like skills and what they're good at rather than their spiritual gifts, because we obviously want to see them go in their spiritual gifts. That was my clarification of misuse of words.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. That's good to have a clarification. Just a beautiful comment here from Alison, which I'd love to share. Alison, if that's okay, I presume it's okay because you've written it publicly. One of my favorite moments as a mother is watching my children serve the Lord using their own gifts, not just copying me. It's a moment when I remember that they have their own relationship with God, really kind of coming off the back of what you've just said there, Rachel. So yeah, that's super lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you have any questions, please type them into the chat now. I'm not seeing any. So if there are no questions, then we will log off very soon. But if there are any questions, you have about 30 more seconds to do it. But just to say, we're Parenting for Faith. We're all about equipping you to help your child meet and know God. That's what we do. Whether your children are babies or children or teenagers or adult children, whether they're living with you or even whether they've left home, we're all about helping you to help them on their faith journey. We're really about closing that back door. Somebody gave me this wonderful picture the other day. The church is very good at opening its front door to people, but we also sometimes forget to close the back door of the children and the teens who are growing up in the church. And we're really all about plugging that gap. We're about closing that back door to help children meet and know God in a way that's authentic and true for them. So if you are up for that too, then make sure you're following us and getting all our updates because we have lots of great events and resources for you. And most of them are totally free of charge, which is great. Right, I don't think there are any questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for turning up and being part of this. Thank you very much, Rachel, for your fabulous, stellar content tonight. And yeah, take care. God bless. And the next pop-up small group is on Tuesday, the 16th of July. And we're looking at different ways to engage kids and teens in the Bible. And we've got Becky Cedric leading.